Hello. This is another YouTube video, just kind of going over that Metroid Dread Demake project that I'm working on. I saw that some of you wanted me to make it into like a ROM hack. Unfortunately, I don't have much experience doing this. But I mean, if anyone wants to use these sprites that I'm making, go for it. I'd be happy to just provide them free. You don't have to ask me or anything. I'll probably link them in the description of this video so that you can go ahead and grab them if you want to. That's assuming anyone with experience even looks at this. But just kind of going into this video, or rather going through the process of what this video is showing, I'm kind of just going to be showing what you see here on the screen. In this case, I'm making all the Samus sprites that I'm going to be using in the project that I'm working on. And the final result that you see here is actually showing more than what the video is going to show. And that's just because off screen from the video, I worked on these extra ones, such as the missile that you can see in the bottom right, or the Samus's slide that you can see in the game itself. And so let's just kind of hop right into the video itself. So here you can kind of see that I just plopped down the that original Samus that we saw from the Reddit post. I don't believe I've showed it yet, but believe me, it's from that. And I've just kind of moved them over and gave them the plasma cannon that Samus usually has within all her games. Of course, in this case, it's the sprite form. I've also created her idle animation up there, and I'm now working on a running animation. For this case, I'm just kind of using, I'm just mostly working on the legs itself, without worrying too much about her upper body. And this is more for, this is more to streamline the process for the game itself, in that I'm actually going to have it broken up into sprite sections. So in the game process, I'll have two sets of sprites, the upper body and the lower body, and that's kind of why I'm just working on the legs. And then later on, you'll see me work on the body itself. And for this video, you'll notice that it's actually very low quality, and that's mostly just because the program I'm using to animate all this and draw it in pixel art is Procreate. And unfortunately, though, for some reason, it doesn't allow me to export the videos at a higher quality, or as far as I can tell, I haven't figured out how to do that. And so you're stuck with this quality of video. I'm sorry for that. In the future, I already kind of figured out how to make the videos crisper, I suppose is the right word to say. So, so in the future, you'll see better looking videos throughout all my content. All right, and just to kind of show you what I mean, here you can kind of see a bit of a debug of the game, I suppose is what I can say for it. And this is just kind of like the in-game, how the sprites are organized. So here you can see the idle animation that I created. You saw it previously on you saw me previously creating that sprite on the video itself. And so here you can actually just see its creation and how it's going to move within the game. You can see all of those different frames that are coming out into the character itself. So if I move over to the other side, you can kind of see that I have it so it's actually the flip sprite rather than the ambidextrous one. So her gun will actually flip with her character and be on the right side. Additionally, we have the running animation. Here it is in action, just what I've created already. And so let's go back to the video to see more of the sprites that I'm going to create, and then I'll show you those sprites within this debug menu. So here I'm actually creating some turning sprites. You didn't see me use those within the debug menu, and that's just because when I was creating the game, it kind of was interfering with the turnings and all that. So I kind of just removed them. But I still have them created just in case. So if I ever want to use those, I can just kind of place them back in there. Here I'm creating the crouching animation. And for some of these, I actually do insert the top half of Samus's body. But later on in the future, I just kind of remove that top half, kind of off screen, if you will. So you'll never really get to see those two pieces of the sprite removed. But in the game, they are. Yeah, so here I am creating the upper body for Samus's running animation. And I don't think I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but all these sprites were referenced from either, well, rather, they were referenced from using the actual game sprites from Metroid Fusion. Nothing was copied down and pasted onto this canvas itself, and everything was hand created by myself uh, using a brush within Procreate. Uh, using a brush within Procreate, the Procreate program itself. And so in this case, I'm actually going in and creating a spin jump animation uh, currently. So for these sections of the sprites, I'm actually creating a spin jump animation. Uh, what I did was essentially just create one frame of Samus pointing in one direction, and then kind of just flip those over the horizontal and vertical axes to create that illusion of a spin jump. And I also create a small frame for like 2 frames of Samus performing a wall jump, in which she is actually kind of clinging to the wall, and then it appears as if she's jumping off. Uh, and so, being this is a Metroid game, traditionally all Metroid titles have 2 sets of sprites. That is to say, we can't have Samus only looking in one direction and then just flip the sprite to give the illusion of her turning. Within Metroid titles, they actually have to create 2 sets, and this is due to her having a an arm cannon on her right hand or right arm. That is to say that she actually has her weapon on the right side of her body, and so the developers of the original Metroid game just kind of like had to create 2 sets of sprites to kind of signify that she's actually turned and that you can actually see her right side of the body. Otherwise, then we would have what's typically called an ambidextrous sprite, in which the weapon would be switched over to the other hand if they were flipped. And most developers just do this to save space, but in the case of Metroid, they kind of went the extra mile and created 2 sets of sprites. And that's kind of like what I have to do here as well. And here you can actually see me creating some additional sprites, and these are the ones that she has whenever she's grabbing onto a ledge. Within Metroid Dread, they actually gave her the power grip move, I believe it's called, which could be seen in Metroid Fusion that you have at the beginning. And additionally, here I created 2 sets. I'm animating her climbing up the side of a wall as well, and I have to give her 2 sets of sprites with that. The extra sprites aren't that hard to create, but it is just small, tedious work. All right, and so moving on to the debug menu. Here we have Samus's character, and I have her in that sprite animation you just saw, in which she's actually grabbing onto the ledge. This is how it looks like originally, and I'm also going to kind of show you her climb animation. Unfortunately, though, this is kind of just a test, so it is a little buggy. As you can see, it's actually it appears very well in the recording itself, but on the game itself, it looks a little janky. But anyways, you saw also that I have her jump animation right there. It's once again, it's a little buggy. Her legs turn slightly slower than her body, but it is there. And then additionally, I have it set to conditions in which, if you're running, you do the spin jump animation. And here you can see that I've actually created those jump animations. And I'm now working on some damage animations. Uh, these are just kind of like the poses that Samus takes whenever she collides with an enemy or gets attacked by one. And once more, just creating 2 sets of sprites, one for the left side and one for the right side. And then up top, I'm actually creating the death animation that you see in most Metroid games. Uh, I didn't know how to go about creating this personally, And so these are actually just referenced from directly from the Metroid Fusion games. Once more, didn't copy these down. These were all hand drawn. I just used the originals as a kind of like as a hand-eye tracing method. And so these first couple sets of sprites are actually just very similar, and were mostly just copied down to give the to have that effect, that light effect have take place. In the final game, I don't actually use that, but I'll explain that later on. And so here I'm actually recreating most of the sprite to give the illusion of her arcing her back, which is present in most of the Metroid titles. It's kind of like the standard death animation that they have her take. And so this here is just an additional sprite. This is mostly seen in the main menu of the game. In this case, it's Metroid Fusion's main menu title. So I'm just gonna kind of skip over some of these parts. Try to get into the more extreme examples of the sprites I'm making. Ah, yes. And so here I'm actually creating the melee animation. Uh, you may have seen for a split second that I actually had it kind of like uh, traced out in the beginning. That was just me trying to figure out how exactly this would look in the main game, or rather how it would look to get a sense of scale rather to the rest of the sprites. And so for this portion, I'm just kind of creating that melee look that they have within the main game, within the sprite format. And so these are all original sprites. These don't appear within Metroid Fusion, so I have nothing to base these off of. And in this case, I'm rather referencing the Metroid Dread game itself, just kind of looking at the frames and how they animated it within the game, and then taking it and putting it into a sprite format, however best it would fit. And so I believe the quality of the video will take a nosedive soon, and that's just because I extend the canvas length, and for whatever reason, Procreate just does not like me doing that. But for now, it's gonna stay kind of steady. And just once more, I'm sorry for the bad video quality. In the future videos, I believe I've already figured out how to have it a better quality, and so we probably won't see all these like blurry sprites anymore. That is assuming that I'm doing any more sprite work on Procreate. Yeah. And then you got to see a little bit of the animation for it. Yeah, so yeah, I was right. Yeah, extending the canvas just really really limited the field of view for all of these sprites. But for the reason I extended it was because I actually wanted to create uh, the other the flip sprites for Samus's melee attack, uh, which actually proved more of a challenge for me. But moving away from that, you can see I've actually created the morph ball animation over in the bottom middle portion, and I do use this in the game, but yeah. And so here we actually can see the morph ball animation that I created there. I think I do need to show you the power bombs and all the other sprites I created, but for now I'm just gonna kind of let the rest of the video play out on its own. And so I can just kind of like remove this. There we go. And so here I'm just kind of finishing up on that opposite end melee sprite animation. This sounds weird to say, but yeah. So we're coming up at the end of the video now too, so that's good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that should be the end of the sprite making itself. And all we have left to show are some additional things. And so here you can kind of just see like the crisper image of all the sprites that I did, and like not really see all that blurriness. And so these are actually made in Sprite, like made with pixel art. And you can see that within the demo, within the debug menu as well. And so I'm just going to kind of show you these additional sprites that I've created, namely the those plasma shots that you can see, as well as the missiles, probably the missile toggle itself, and you can kind of see that slide animation too. Because in this one, I actually just have it to where it's performing the slide, but you don't see all the VFX for it. Or I don't know if I should say VFX, but just kind of that additional flair that they have within the game itself, you know. So let's move on to that. So here we are. So here, if I can kind of get off from the morph ball that you can see. And as I'm running, I can perform that slide animation. And you saw there that I have like those extra sparks coming out of the heels of her feet. And those are kind of like what I mean by those extra VFX. You don't say that within that sprite sheet. And so if I go down here, I can toggle my missile, and if I hit that fire button, then you can see that it actually launches a missile. And I can toggle it on and off whenever I feel like it. Additionally, I have some additional animations that you don't see, and those are the looking up and down angles. I have these for every set of sprites. And so here you can also see that standard plasma shot. It actually is very fast. And I haven't like exactly worked out the speeds at which you can shoot. But other than that, I really have nothing else to show you. And so I really hope that you enjoy this video. This is my first time being on a mic, I suppose is the word. So I'm sorry if I come off as like outlandish or stumble on my words, and that's just because this is my first time. And I really do hope that you enjoyed this video, and you stay to kind of see what else I create. I will. My next video will probably be just a showcase of all those different things I've actually made within the game, and I really do hope that you enjoyed. Anyways, goodbye.